Hello, and we are Geeks World today in a festive mood. We are discussing a 1992 movie starring Michael Caine. We are talking a classic adaptation of a Charles Dickens novel. We are talking the Muppet Christmas Carol. And these guys here have gathered here to just have a little chit chat about this movie. So we're going to move to Brian and have his opening thoughts first. Over to you, Mr. Rohn.
Why, thank you, Mr. Wilson. It is my turn for my review. My thoughts upon this Muppet movie, Muppet Christmas Carol, is honestly, I hated it. I thought it wasn't really. I thought it was like probably the worst adaptation of A Christmas Carol that they've had so far. I thought it was too annoying, too kiddish, and did I say annoying? It's damn right annoying. So just not my particular cup of tea for Charles Dickens Christmas Carol adaptations. I would rather watch Bill Murray's version than this. But this one is just not my particular cup of tea. I just maybe just the reason I thought it was too childlike and kiddish. Maybe that's why, I don't know. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
Thanks for that, Brian. Childlike and kiddish, it is the Muppets, which are puppets. But yeah, there's that many versions of A Christmas Carol out there, but this one was in the poll and it came up the top 5. So we'll move over to Stephen Price and see what he has to say on this.
Brian, what the hell is wrong with you? Of course it's for kids because there's Muppets in it. You idiot. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Michael Caine's performance as Scrooge. There's a lot of funny bits in it, which I shall say later. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Short and sweet, as always, Mr. Price. We'll go over to the love seat.
Oh, thank you very much. And Lee, you seem to fog your camera, so you might do wipe it a little bit with a little, There you go.
Yeah. You got a foggy camera, man.
There you go. All set. And Muppet's Christmas Carol was cute. It was endearing. I liked the Cratchits being Miss Piggy and Kermit and little
Brian, or
Robin
yeah.
Or whatever, and like that has Tiny Tim. That was adorable. I loved the ghosts. That was fun. Little baby, big smiley guy, and then ghosty guy, and that was fun. And Marley being one of Waldorf or what's the other one's name? Waldorf and
Ralph and
Statler.
I'm sorry.
Statler.
Waldorf and Statler.
So one of those two, Waldorf or Statler, was Morley, and then the two, Beaker and the what's his name?
Professor Honeydew.
Professor Honeydew and Beaker were the people soliciting for a donation for the poor. That was really sweet, and and Michael Caine. Okay, and let's just not forget Michael Caine because he did, you know, he did have to work entirely with puppets, and the man can work with actors. He can work with cool little Mini Cooper cars full of gold. He can work with Twiggy. He can work with, um, you know, pretty scenery, and he can work.
Rubber sharks. What about
A man in a backpack.
And sharks he can work with. He can work with Batman, and he can work with puppets. So Michael Caine deserves uber credit for being, the wonderful, amazing actor that he is. And so that's my first opening bits here. Here you go.
Yeah, this movie did quite well. If there hadn't been Home Alone 2, which we kind of just reviewed last week, it would have done better. Well, again, I mean, it is the Muppets. They were saying that because Jim Henson died in 1990 and Richard Hunt died a year after that, they had to change the puppeteers and they had to change the voices a little bit. Just reading on IMDb that there was actually more songs. That might be the other reason why it's not exactly Muppet based, because there would have actually been a lot more songs. And anybody that has seen all the versions of the Muppet Show would know that they usually did anywhere from 2 to 8 songs every show.
Yeah.
So obviously they're trying to keep this more to the Christmas Carol, and Michael Caine actually does a very good job in it, as a matter of fact, and sings at the end, and it's not a bad song, and he doesn't do a bad job. So apparently he should have stayed away from Jaws and just done this one.
I agree.
Yes, yeah, well, maybe one day we may get to the revenge of Jaws the Revenge, but maybe one day. Yeah, it's the Muppets. It's what can you say? Yeah, it's Jim Henson died. His son Brian Henson took over. He directed this movie, I think. It's an enjoyable movie. It's a family-friendly adaptation of A Christmas Carol. Yeah, Waldorf and Statler as the Marley brothers, Jacob and Robert, Bob Marley. I just that made me giggle. But yeah, it is. It's a fun movie, and you've got Miss Piggy and Kermit married, got kids, got little piglets, and got little tadpoles. Yeah, it was the thing. What I didn't. I mean, Alex mentioned the songs, the singing. I didn't think much of the songs in this, and they were written by Paul. Is it Paul Williams? Which is quite well known. Singer songwriter. Yeah, they just didn't stand out for me. I mean, Michael Caine did do a good job, belting that song out at the end. Michael Caine is Michael Caine in any movie. He plays himself, and he does what he does. There it is. There's Robert Marley, one of the Jacob brothers, one of the Jacob Marley, and oh dear, that's yeah. I enjoyed it for what it is. It has become so we say a cult classic movie. People just love this movie at Christmas, and it just shows. But you got to think of this: how much hard work went into making this. As you say, you've got Michael Caine and a couple more actors having to work in an environment of Muppets. So there's all the scenery underneath the street, with all these, the people underneath the street working these Muppets. It's a lot of hard work, and luckily it pays off in the end of this. You've got to admire that. So let's go to Brian then and see if he's got any favourite moments. So, I know he didn't like it, but he may have found something good about it, or has he got some really bad moments? Over to you, Brian.
Thank you again, Mr. Wilson. I would say probably I do like Michael Caine in the film because like Susan said, Susan is like one of the good actors within Hollywood, and from stuff I've seen him in, like Austin Powers, Batman, and there was another film I saw him. I just can't remember the title. But anyway, with this being the fourth, wait, fourth movie that I've seen him in. He's pretty much a good actor, and I like him and everything. So that him being a Scrooge and what he's done, being Scrooge, I did like that. Some of the songs weren't that half bad. I mean, it depends on what the song was and where the songs were coming from within the film. But the thing I didn't really like is how they introduced Scrooge. And like, you know how like they couple of the Muppets like talking about him and trying to build them up and introduce them and everything. I thought that was a little bit too much to bring about Scrooge. But other than the songs and Michael Caine saving, I would guess you would say, saving the film for me. Other than those things, there's nothing really else to say about the film. So those are my takes and thoughts upon it.
Right, thanks for that, Brian. I mean, if you've only seen Michael Caine in 4 sort of movies, you've got over 50 years of career of movies of Sir Michael Caine, of course. So going way back to the early 60s. So you've got a lot of catching up to do, Brian. So let's go to Stephen. What's your favourite moments or things you didn't like?
Didn't like any of the songs. I got to admit that. Favorite moments have got to be what's the two Muppets that go back within. What's the name of them? You know, the pointy nose, you know, and the rat. They made me laugh.
Gonzo the Great, yeah.
Yeah, the shelf was just about to collapse, and he was holding on. Other favourite moments, I think. No.
Gonzo the Great and Rizzo the Red, I think it is.
Yeah. Yeah, the first ghost comes down and what is it? The cat chases after one of them. That was hilarious. There is a few more. I can't.
You see, now, this is what happens when you get to a certain age and the memory starts to go.
No. I had just been asleep for 2 hours and I thought, I'll have to watch this Muppet Christmas Carol.
Oh, man, poor Stephen.
I gotta get my beauty sleep, see, Brian?
You don't get enough of it.
And the other part that made me laugh, you know, the classic scene, he looks out the window and he, you know, in the Alistair Sim film, you know, you go and get the turkey and all this and that.
Oh, yeah.
The puppet there, you know, that was hilarious, that was.
A little rabbit, yeah. Is you done for now? Then we'll move over to
Yeah. A rabbit getting a turkey. That's a little strange, huh?
Go ahead,
over. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was reading some of the reviews. They did criticize it for not being enough Muppet-like, but the issue is it's not the Muppet Show. Plus, they had a TV special where they did that anyway, and Jim Henson was still alive in the TV special. But this one is a Christmas Carol, and so if they did too much musical numbers, or if they did too many jokes,
or too much modern,
then it would be not exactly the Christmas Carol. They did cut out 3 songs. So I guess you have to get either the deleted scenes or the extended cut. And I guess that's in the later versions.
Oh, very fun.
But yeah, I mean, basically, I think it's about the Muppet Show for about, what, 4 minutes, I think, pretty much, with the old hecklers and Fozzie Bear, and then Miss Piggy, Robin, and Kermit. And I mean, yeah, I mean, this is the same thing, because the other criticism is if you make it too modern, then it's not a Christmas Carol.
That's right.
If you stay too much with it, then it's just a retelling.
Right.
So if you want to see more Muppet-based, where they're stranded in the house, the very big house, I guess you have to find it on YouTube, the Christmas special there. And I think Jim Henson actually makes 2 appearances, very short, like Hitchcock, as himself, sort of, really quickly. But yeah, I mean, I did like it, and it did actually refer to the original book several times, and it did refer to the fact that this is kind of a salvation story. He's getting saved. His soul is I hate to get religious or whatever I'm trying to remember the word. Sort of
ecumenical.
Yeah, ecumenical. But I mean, he's basically worshiping money and only viewing life as money. And yeah, you do need it on the planet Earth, but you can't base it only on money and say that people are only worth money and that's it.
And the surplus population must be dealt with.
Well, again, I mean, that was thrown in his face later on with the ghosts, and he, I mean, it's easy to say that, but when you look at a child and say that, you have to be pretty cruel to say, oh, I'm gonna wish a child didn't exist because it doesn't make money.
That's right.
So, I think somehow he either forgot who he was, and there was the part in the story where he fell in love with that girl, but didn't, stay with her or whatever, and that made him more cruel. And then he
wasn't that one of the band members?
Well, no, there was a girl that was in the movie, and that she was supposed to have another song, but they decided that it would be too sad to include it. Maybe too adult to include it. That he did have unrequited lost love, and that sort of helped him harden and only view things in terms of money. I mean, of course, that's the other question about the story, is not to get attached to things and care more about people. Because at the end of your life, you're not going to go, oh, I wish I had made more money. Most people are going to say, oh, I wish I had gone here. I wish I had known this person or whatever. So I think that, but I have known some people in the past who consider themselves very religious and did not like the story and consider it for 6th grade. And they don't want to hear it anymore after that. They said, well, he loved money too much. He didn't care about anybody else. And that's not what believing in God is about, which they have a point, but they kind of, dismiss the story as a 6th grade Sunday school tale, which that's a little unfair, because I read the book, and the book is very detailed and very interesting, and it's not as sweet as most versions are.
Yeah.
Plus, there is the other reality of, when you're sleeping, you don't know whether if you're dreaming, you don't know if you're asleep or awake or not. So that could possibly be spiritual in a way, not just the subconscious or the brain working out problems, which it could be as well. But as Shakespeare said, there's more things in heaven and earth than are dreamed of in most people's philosophies. So, it's something to consider.
I've just got to say, I love these casts because we're talking about the Muppets and we get the Muppets and philosophy in one go with Alex. You get your money's worth. You get your money's worth on this channel. Over to you, Susan.
Yeah, I agree. He's got a big brain.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I love this story. I love this story so much. And I guess my favorite points in it were when he's face to face with the ghost at the beginning, the first ghost, and he's like, I don't believe this. I don't accept it. And then he gets taken back in time. And also I like the part of the thing where he's face to face with Tiny Tim's death, and he has to like work through that. And I mean those moments are burly, and in the story, even surrounded by Muppets, this is a great story, and I love the singing, and I love the dancing, and the Muppets are brilliant at that. And I love Animal and Dr. Teeth and stuff in it, and I love who is the other actor, the one who played his nephew?
I think if I remember right, it's Stephen McDonald or something like that.
Okay, yeah, I'll buy that.
Yeah,
and so
he did appear in a Doctor Who story at one point.
Oh, he did?
Yes, that classic called Time Lash.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yes, quite right. Yes. Anyway, I'm pretty much done with my part, but I just wanted to say that I do like how you parse that out. I just think that was quite nice. Really, really well done.
I mean, again, that is another question about the Muppets, was the fact that if you watch the original show from 75 to 1980, I think it was, and then they tried to do other versions which weren't as successful, and they were more music based. They had one early, ironically enough, they had one early Disney version where they had them singing with Miley Cyrus and Demi Lovato and other things. But the original show, Kermit was trying to run, a theater. He had to deal with all the personalities. Miss Piggy was very aggressive, always has been. Fozzie thinks he's the best when he rarely is. Gonzo wanted to do 10,000 stunts. Sam the Bald American Eagle wanted to do, orations of poems, and that slowed down the whole show. So it's kind of interesting, even though it was a musical comedy with plot added in usually, except for, Elton John and Mark Hamill and all these other famous stars. The characters were actually very well defined.
Yeah.
And they, when you take it all as a group, it actually added a lot of variety to it.
Yeah.
So they brought it back in Muppets Tonight, which was like an updated modern 80s version of the 70s version, but they cut it and edited way down. And then they did that Disney version that I just mentioned with Miley Cyrus and Selena Gomez and Demi Lovato. And now they've done another version which was more reality TV based, which did not work.
It was rude.
So hopefully, and they had the new movies with Amy Adams, and those sort of worked.
Oh, those are cute.
But yeah, I mean, it's very tough because the characters are so defined
I know.
that
You can't give them too hard of an edge, otherwise it just destroys.
well,
them, right?
they might have to give them a little bit of an edge, but the issue was the new version that was on ABC was too reality TV based, and then
It
they
was
gave him
vulgar.
they gave him a Snooki like girlfriend, and that is just going too far. So
Anyway.
so it's tough. It's tough to have the Muppets, and at the same point, you don't want them to do the same thing for like 50 years either. So, and it is getting on that point that they're almost, that's the other irony is that
Well,
in
50
America,
years,
right?
yeah.
In America, we love Sesame Street, and Kermit the Frog was on that as a news reporter,
Right.
and that was in the 60s and 70s. So the thing is, now what? It's 2018. So, I mean, what next? He's going to run a network, which I think they've already done. So, yeah. So, I mean, it's very tough to try to have new characters. And of course, as Lee knows and Steven knows, they've done a version of the Muppets, The Pigs in Space, with Miss Piggy, where they had two of the actors from Doctor Who.
Oh my gosh!
And
David
then
Tennant
said,
and Peter Davidson.
right, and then they had the Ted Knight type of character in the Muppets from Space to regenerate. So
Yeah.
they're trying. They're trying many different types of things. I don't know if it works exactly, but
Okay. Muppet history. Ta-da!
And I think the next big thing for Kermit is the White House. But a few things I liked about this say that I do like the comedy, things with Gonzo and Ratso. They're very funny. The little bits what they do, and also as you say, the family you get to see Piggy and Kermit together having a family, because that's what Piggy always wanted. It's a good movie. It's not one of the best, as I say, but it's still a good movie and people enjoy it. So we'll go to final say and score. We'll go to Brian, and we'll go for your final say and score, Brian.
Okie dokie. Smoky. My final say and score would probably have to be I would probably gonna have to give it a 4.
That's it. It's bad. Right. We'll go to Stephen.
I enjoyed it. I'd give it 8.5. I'd give it 8.5. Yeah.
That's fair enough score. We'll go back to our love duo.
And I'll give this a 9 out of 10. Darling story, and really cool to see the Muppets do it.
I wanted to give it an 8, but I'm going to give it a 9 because Michael Caine actually is very good in this. And he also does good singing with good lyrics. And I actually enjoyed that a lot. Again, he can be a very good actor. He's been in some very bad movies in the 1980s. But in the 60s and 70s and even the 90s, he started improving.
Can I butt in there? He's been in Jaws the Revenge, which obviously was terrible. And the other one was The Swarm.
Yeah, The Swarm. Yeah. I gotta watch that again.
And he's done one with Steven Seagal, which was terrible.
Oh no, he did one with Mr. Seagal. Oh God.
Yeah. You got to check that one out. Yeah, it is terrible.
Talk about the Muppets. Oh my goodness.
As Michael Caine says, he doesn't care what scripts, what films he does. It pays his mortgage.
Yeah, he's got to pay those bills. Dollar bill, y'all.
And when he said Jaws the Revenge, it paid his mortgage.
Yep.
So for me, it's an enjoyable movie, as I said. I mean, there's one of the characters I love in it. The one who always used to have the knife throwing act, but he used to use fish. He was in this little show.
That crazy stunt man. Yeah, even worse than Gonzo. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, he was in this little bit in there, and he's just fresh fish. I'm throwing fresh fish away. You can have them. I just love that. But yeah, and also the Ghost of Christmas Present. I like the way he slowly sort of turned into Santa Claus at the end. The white beard, laughing away. So I think that's what they were trying to get out there. But yeah, for me, I'm going to give this. I enjoyed it. It's not one of the best, but I'm going to give it an 8, which is a good score for me. So I'm glad we sat down and watched this, because sometimes it's just fun to sit down and watch something childish. This is a classic classic adaptation. I'd like to thank you guys for joining. You know, it's always fun to gather together on a weekend, just chit chat. If you like what we've done, leave a comment below. Give us a like on the video or whatever. If you want to join us, leave a message, and we'll get in touch with you and see if we can bring you into the group. Follow us. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We've got a page. We've got a group. We're all over the place. Just say we just need some fresh faces. Keep things fresh. So until next time, we wish you a Merry Christmas, because we're there. We're nearly there. And until next time, we're seeing you.
Merry Christmas. Merry
God
Christmas.
rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ the Savior was born upon this day.